All right, so I think
He
this.
didn't want to sit by me because
I
I
know,
keep him straight.
yeah. Well, JD is a racist man. He doesn't like Italians.
Oh man, JD. Okay, so it's recording
He
now.
likes black people, but he doesn't like Italians. I don't know.
Well, I can understand that.
Okay.
That's common knowledge.
I don't know.
Okay, so I think this is good.
Okay. If you do want to start, hey, if you do want to stop and start it, what do I gotta do?
I came in and was reading already. I thought, and,
Okay, and which play?
I
Oh, that same.
David talked and tried to get a break after 2 hours. Nobody would. Just wanted to keep having. And so I'm sure you're gonna feel that way today. David Ajibade is a very good friend of mine. I joined
Play now.
my son is younger than my youngest son by far. And so if you wait that, I've got land, Oceanside land. Here in the winter. But David is very knowledgeable and then his background and take first hour. And I feel so blessed that he not only came to Minnesota, did 4 meetings for me, but then he came out here when I asked him and started talking to people, meeting people and helping people. He's helped many people with their health, with natural ways they can do things. And he doesn't charge a dime. So he does have if you want to be a patient or what do they call it? If you want him to consult with, he has a small fee, but it's well worth it. I've listened to him. He's doing consultation. It's very David started off as a cancer doctor and then decided he wanted to make healthy and not just treat and operate stuff. So, but with no further ado, you didn't come to listen to me, so I'm going to turn it over to my son, Dr. David Ajibade.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate this. Well, good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Please give Jen a round of applause. She really does. And I mean, she took the risk of bringing this Nigerian man half across the country to come and take care of all the room and board just because she wanted to share, well, help people understand health better and help them know what it takes to take better control of their health. So thank you again, John. I hope my trip, which is coming to an end to Yuma, is as beneficial for everyone as has been. It's been a really wonderful time. I'm just going to say a few things. I see that half of you, maybe a little less, well, a little fewer, were not here last week. So I'm just going to do some recap. And then if there's anything you think I should fill in, just feel free, let me know. If there's any question, I know I talk kind of strange. If there's any question or you didn't hear something properly, if you want me to repeat myself, what that is.
Step this way.
I just step this
Right there.
right here. That is good. Right. If there's at any point you want me to repeat myself, please feel free. You will not hurt my feelings. Back again. All right.
Right there.
Tell me what the Goldilocks zone is. Okay. This is the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, it's working.
All right. So how far can I go around? Because I'm going to be going to the whiteboard at some point.
And I'll move you
Just
over.
follow. That's why I needed you there. Okay. So it's the title is about your health in your hands. It's very well chosen specifically for that purpose. I think what COVID-19 has done is really showed us to a very large extent why it's so important that you begin to understand your health and what it takes to control your health. And because, I mean, for quite a few of you, you couldn't have access to your doctors or healthcare practitioners the way it used to before because of COVID. and hospitals were overrun and so on and so forth. And of course, there's a lot of politics involved in this and money involved in this as well. But it's so important that you understand what it takes to take control of your health. This is also the title of our TV show in Nigeria. We have a TV show that runs every week, every Tuesday in Nigeria. And for the past almost 1.5 years now, I've been in the US. So I've been filming these shows from the US and then sending them back to Nigeria. And I think our hard work sort of paid off because we eventually, we were notified in December that we won the best health TV show in the whole of Africa. The best health TV show in the whole of Africa. Thank you very much. And that's, a lot of it has to do with the value of the content. Because we want you to understand. I mean, the TV show is primarily for Africans and Black people, because I think we have a much greater risk of certain diseases like cancer, cardiovascular disease, even brain disorders that white people do, believe it or not, have it worse. And I'll probably explain a little bit about that. But in general, too, those same principles apply to anyone, whether you're black, white, or purple. There are basic things that you have to know, especially in this day and age, especially with technology exploding all over us, especially with all these infections and pandemics. So we're going to go into a lot of this stuff, but we're going to start with the basics. Everybody say the basics. Fundamentals. That's what it's all about. The best teams, the best players, the ones that do the best, it's always about basics. It's always about the fundamentals. So let's get into this, shall we? So again, this is not a substitute. We have to say this, that this is not a substitute for your doctor's healthcare advice and professional consultation. But the goal again is to give you the understanding and the tools, not just in the understanding, but give you the tools. Sometimes people understand what they need to do, but they don't know which particular brands of supplement, for instance, that you would need to get, and how to get it, and where to get it, and how much. We're going to go into that some more. How much of a certain supplement you need, because sometimes it's just not enough to know that you need vitamin D. It's just not enough. You might need a few other things as well. I do have to say a few things because the reason why I'm here in the US is because our foundation has been mandated by the federal government of Nigeria to address certain disease conditions, most especially sickle cell disease, which is a Black person's condition. We found out that by using specific supplements, you can actually make a huge difference. And there are a lot of people, I'm going to say a little bit about that because that's why I'm here in this country. I'll say a little bit about that. Jan mentioned something about consultations. Am I getting out of, am I good? So Jan mentioned something about consultations. Yes, I do consult. And then we also have some deals with manufacturers where we get some really high quality, high price supplements at a cheaper rate at a discount. And that's all to support our work with the foundation. So we're going to be talking about a few of them. And if enough people are interested in it, we shall buy in bulk. Some available. These are really, really great supplements. They are things that we have been using to reverse strokes, to reverse dementia, to reverse brain damage in children, with, especially in children who have had some major birth defects in Nigeria. As I mentioned last week, a lot of births happen outside the hospital. 70% to be exact. Mosques, homes, churches, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things can go wrong. A lot of things do go wrong. And these kids, mostly poor kids, have nowhere to go and it's left to their parents to try and take care of them whatever way they can. But we found out that we do something about it. We went to the government of Nigeria and we told them we can help. And so they gave us permission again to address all these things. So we really have a mandate from the federal government to address a lot of things, including cancer, using specific nutrients. I think we're the only ones that I know of that have that ability. So it's pretty cool. So I think you've gone through. So yeah, so I'm just going to say a few things about my story. I think my life can be divided into two. My professional life can be divided into 3 parts. First part was my training as a medical doctor. I started training as a cancer. I was in the cancer training, radiation oncology for a few years before I left to come to the US. Like Dan said, I really wanted to understand not just how to help people, but how the human body works, how the human body can repair itself, how the human body functions, and what it takes to optimize that function. Because in the final analysis, a lot of things that's going on in your lives or my life, whatever, is because your body and your brain somewhere along the way lacks the resources or did not have enough resources to repair itself or to fix itself. Perfect example is COVID-19, perfect example is cancer. Cancer happens because for the most part, I mean, there are genetic causes as well, but I would say 90% of the causes is because your body simply did not do what it took or what it required to fix the problem when it was a small problem. And just let it grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and become a big problem that it is. Your body should be able to fix pretty much anything. And so the other passion is my love for the brain. Probably know what that is. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon at one point in time. He was one of my idols. Don't know who this is, right?
Carson.
This is Dr. Ben Carson,
Ben Carson.
the famous neurosurgeon. Looks a little different now, doesn't it? Anyway, so I was saying that way back, I always wanted to be a famous neurosurgeon, famous author, and a famous politician. I think this is just about as close as I actually got to becoming one.
I just want to interject one thing. We haven't really looked at
Which one of them? Gifted Hands is probably his most successful book. Gifted Hands, he tells a story about, yeah, so Gifted Hands is, yeah, thank you, Gary. They were good books. He's a professor of like 4 different specialties, but mainly pediatric neurosurgery. He was the first human being to successfully separate kids joined in the brain. Brain was the first human being person to successfully separate them. He started with very poor background projects, typical black, black, very common black story, single mother projects. His mother couldn't read, but somehow she forced him and his brother to read and study and understand. And he became more like he became a successful neurosurgeon. His brother became a successful engineer. Carson, C-A-R-S-O-N, Johnny Carson.
3 books, Gifted Hands was his first.
Oh, he has more than 3 books. He has like 6 books now. It's talking about a lot about the country and how the need to be a true quote-unquote patriot and save our kids, so on and so forth. Brilliant, man. Wonderful human being too. Wonderful Christian. Anyway, that's when I was still getting a few pounds since then. So I just quickly say this, please pardon me, sickle cell, this again is why I'm here. Sickle cell disease is a condition that kills over close to 100,000 kids every year before the age of 5. Those who survive live a very, very important situation. Over 4 million people then in Nigeria. Nigeria has the most number of kids, most number of individuals with sickle cell disease by 4 million. So there's pretty much nothing effective being done except if they come to the US where they have a transplant. But very, very vast majority of them live in those areas, and they live and they suffer and they die mostly before the 30th birthday. After they survive past the 5th birthday. Again, we found out that we do certain things to help them. Research, we're about to start a research in a few weeks that will prove that, document the data that we have. So we can take to the government and say, we need to start treating these kids in this similar way. Primarily, the way we're talking about is helping them strengthen their immune systems. We found out that simply strengthening the immune system of a child with sickle cell disease could reverse, prevent what you're seeing here, and could significantly reduce that statistic. So I asked for your help in this regard. This is when we went to the government of Nigeria, and they gave us all the permission, gave us to do. They were so impressed because we took parents of kids who had very severe brain damage, very severe sickle cell disease. We took them to the government. The government was so impressed, they gave us full permission to do whatever it takes to help kids and adults So everything I'm going to be talking to you now, and I kind of jumped away from that, but my career started as a medical doctor, conventional training. Then I left to come to the US for about 10 years. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, did a master's. Then I began, through some degree of, I guess, good fortune, I got to meet Ben Carson, and we learned about nutrition. He reversed prostate cancer, addressing prostate cancer using specific nutritional supplements. So I got to be on the board of that company, the speaker's board of that company that produced the supplements that Ben Carson used. That was really my introduction into this whole thing about nutrition and the power it has to help your body do what your body needs to do. Remember, it's always about the body. Body is the one. The body is the miracle. The body is the worker. The body it's in the body that the wisdom is to repair, to fix problems. And so, so for 10 years, I was learning about this. And I began to teach about it. I wrote a book, and we started webinars way back in 2006, 2007, where Zoom was, nobody knew what Zoom was. But when it was other software, and we began to find people around the world and around the country to talk about specific areas. So I learned a lot through that period of the process. After that 10 years, I went back to Nigeria. And that was really where my education actually began to become more concretized. Because now, all the things we were learning, I was learning while I was in the US, and now I began to find areas in which we could apply them specifically. That's where we learned about things like omega-3s, vitamin D, and so on and so forth. Actually, we had a free clinic every Friday. We still do. Well, it's now twice a month now. But for many years, it was every Friday. People get the poor, destitute would come from all around the city, and we would give them these very, very expensive supplements, sometimes $500 a month, sometimes worth $1,000 a month, free of charge. The reason we're doing that was because we had great relationships with companies here, and they saw what we were doing, and they were willing to help. They wouldn't ship it to us. We would have to ship it to Nigeria. So eventually, we would always pay for everything ourselves. But we got on our website, we have tons of videos on what we do. So I know this is talking about health. This is a way to donate. Should you want to donate, we really ask for your donations. You can take out checks to Brain and Body Foundation, or you can just send a text to the number is right there. There's the phone number. And just type SCD. The body message. We can show it to you later on as well. All right, so the whole idea is not really about prevention. It's not really about curing a disease. It's really about, and I've alluded to this, it's really about strengthening the body, understanding the tools that it takes. What circumstances does it take for your body, let's say, cancer, for instance. What went wrong? What do you need to set? What does your body need to do to set it right? Because I guarantee you, the body is trying to fix the problem. It's just not having the right circumstances to do that. And yes, medication is important, and yes, surgery is important. There's some things that we can do that the body cannot do. There's some things medication can do that the body cannot do. That's just the truth. However, in every circumstance, whether surgery, radiation, or medication, your body, there's something your body can do to make the treatment work even better. And so I kind of like, over the years, we've developed what we know, what we term basic things that everybody should know about. And you all know, I was saying last week, how I enjoy speaking to seniors the most because you've lived through these things. You understand why it's important to have good relationships. That's not why it's important to walk around. That's not why it's important to eat right. I mean, the reason you're here today is because to some degree, whether consciously or unconsciously, you've lived these truths. Hang on just a minute. Yeah, take some.
Ben missed one part of his life. Yeah, David. And that is, he went to, when he was in Tulsa, he went to Bible college at
Went to Oral Roberts University. I also went to a Bible school called Victory Bible Institute. So these are overall principles. We're going to be talking mainly about number 4 because The final, and I think the easiest thing anybody can do is put a pill in their mouth. Most of us are used to it, right? It's the easiest thing you can put in your body is put it in your mouth. It may be hard to get on an exercise program, it may be hard to start meditating, it may be hard to change your thoughts all of a sudden, but most people can. If you find the right pills, you can easily change what you're doing. So that's why I like what I do. The human body, this is one of the most profound statements anybody can make. Human body heals itself. It heals itself, it repairs itself, it fixes itself. But it needs the right resources. Nutrition is what provides it. It's not just enough to have a balanced diet. It's not just enough to eat lots of fruits and vegetables. You need the right concentration of the right nutrients for you to do what you need to do. Okay. So what are the resources? I always have these 5 at the very beginning. I think everybody needs to know this. You all got to have at the very least, the first 3. At the very, very, very least, the first 3. Because those are the basics, especially in this COVID-19 season that we're in. So vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and we'll say a few things about that. So I'm going to use COVID-19 as an example to apply to whatever other condition that we can think about. When it comes to COVID-19, there are 3 systems that are primarily affected. The respiratory system, obviously, because that's how COVID-19 gets into your body, you breathe it in. The next is the immune system, because the immune system has to fight it once it gets into your body. And of course, the cardiovascular system. A lot of the deaths that we're seeing from the COVID-19 itself, of the virus, is as a result of its damage to the cardiovascular system. It causes strokes, it causes heart attacks, and so on and so forth. So let's look at this. So I have this graphic up. I did this presentation. The National Broadcasting Corporation of Nigeria invited me to their annual program. So I had my staff draw this up. And I had 7 minutes. I had 7 minutes to pass the message across. So I had to put it in the graphics so that they could understand what I was saying and just point to different things. So here's what it is. Over 80% of people are going to get, with Omicron, about 100% of people are going to get COVID-19. That's a fact. Doesn't matter what you do. Vaccinate yourself, triple vaccinate, quadruple vaccinate, you're going to get COVID. It's pretty much 100%. What the difference is that probably 80% will not have any symptoms or will have mild symptoms. This barrier here is kind of like the first barrier where you do whatever you need to do to prevent it from getting in your body. This other barrier here is like the respiratory system. Okay. It gets stuck in your nose, your sinuses, your throat, probably lower into your lungs. That's where the fight starts. The defenses in your respiratory system and your immune system are trying to fight the virus, trying to push it out. That's why you have fever, you have cough, sinuses, you have runny nose, and so on and so on. That's all the body trying to push the virus out and prevent it from going any deeper. You're going to need these 3 to prevent that. Now, if it penetrates and gets into the lungs, that's where another problem is. And then it causes a lot of destruction. That's why we need ventilators and so on and so forth. Then if it progresses further than that, it gets into the bloodstream, and like you mentioned, you have strokes and all kinds of things. The problem I have with a lot of even people who are supposed to know better is that they take vitamin C, they take vitamin D, they take zinc. And then they just take the regular doses. And then when they have a sore throat or they suspect, as soon as you suspect anything, even if like let's say you come to a place like this and you're not sure about it, as soon as you get back home, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to double, triple the vitamin C and vitamin D that you've been taking just to pass through this phase. Because you don't know You don't know what the people you've been sitting and talking to. We don't know. They may look healthy, right? Everybody looks healthy and smiling, but we don't know. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have that whole white on rice mentality. Be on it like a swarm of bees, or a swarm of flies. Attack it before you even have a single symptom. Same thing maybe you're stressed, you haven't slept well, you fought with your spouse, or whatever it is. All those things break down your defenses. So you want to stay on top of it. You want to do the things that you need to do to keep your health, your immune system strong. So, let me just go back to this. So I mentioned, let me just quickly say this. So this is kind of like what I do. I've been in this country, I came to the country to September 12th, September 7th, 2020, the middle of the pandemic. People were dying everywhere. Right? There were no vaccines then. I've been to everybody. I was in California, I was in Florida, Texas, I was in New Jersey, where the pandemic was the worst. So whatever I did is what I'm telling you to do right now. Vitamin D3, on average, you need, the rules are now, from those who know, you need at least 10,000, which is actually 10,000. Many of you are taking like 600, 1,000. That is not enough, especially in the winter. Good thing you have a lot of sun here, but it's 1,000 is still not enough. 10,000. This can almost last the entire year. It's less than $7. And that's what upsets me about this whole thing. It is so cheap to maintain your health. If you attack it the way I'm saying, this is vitamin C. You want the powder, you don't want the pills. You want the powder. And I have a small scoop here. And so I'm in the airport, I'm traveling, I'm in the car. I take each scoop is like 1 gram. They say you should take more than 100 milligrams. What's that gonna do? You need the rules. What people who know, again, Linus Pauling. Linus Pauling is one of the, does anybody know who Linus Pauling is? He's one of the most accomplished scientists ever. And he has 48 PhDs. He has 2 unshared Nobel Prizes, Most prizes are shared, especially in medicine, are shared with others. He has 2. So he says you take a lot of vitamin C. In fact, he says from the age of 10, it's like use your age, and that'll tell you like you're 12 years old, it's 12 times 1 gram. So you take 12 grams a day. They're using 25 grams IV to treat COVID-19. In many hospitals, 25 grams IV. So if vitamin C is that dangerous, it's unfortunate. So there's a book here. This is by a cardiologist. It's called Curing the Incurable. I would really encourage you to get it. It's on Amazon. Curing the Incurable. He's also a lawyer. He actually went into law school so that he could fight the medical profession and the pharmaceutical profession, because he thought it was a travesty. It was a tragedy that some people were dying when they didn't know that something as simple as vitamin C to make a difference. For those of you who are concerned about vitamin D3 being a vitamin, it has to be vitamin D3, not vitamin D2. The doctor is going to recommend prescribe vitamin D2. That's not what you take. You should be taking D3. As I got this book, it says the miraculous results of extremely high doses of the sunshine hormone. It's actually a hormone, not a vitamin. And this man says, my experiment with huge doses of D3, from 25,000 to 50,000 to 100,000, I use a day over a period of 1 year. Said 10,000 because I think I feel safe recommending that. But if you feel threatened, feel there's any reason why you should take more, by all means, take more, please. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a bottle of the DC,
D3.
and it says just take one daily. How much is it?
Which one are we talking about? D3. D3 has each pill has 5,000 international units.
5,000, so it should take you
Yes, ma'am.
a day.
Yes, ma'am. 2 a day. I take way more than that. Sometimes I just put like 4 or 5 in my body and keep going. Why? Because one, the toxicity is very rare with vitamin D3. Yes, ma'am. And 2, I would rather be toxic with vitamin D3 than have a severe condition called COVID-19. And by the way, if you are going to get a vaccine or vaccination, take a lot of D3 before you do it, because that will help limit their reaction to it. Okay. So there we go. I think I'm still doing housekeeping. Yeah. Okay. Zinc is another one. Zinc is really, really important. Zinc. One of the things zinc does is that it disrupts the virus, stops it from replicating. In Nigeria, we're still using over 200 milligrams to treat COVID-19 of zinc. And we use ivermectin, by the way. Officially use ivermectin. So if it's all what the media is saying is horse pill, why are countries using it, right? So it's not everything on the news. I hate to say this, but it's not everything on the news you have to believe. And by the way, I mean, so much more. Yes, about. Good question. So I use much smaller doses. So over here, so I use a much smaller. I think it's a different. I wish I'd read that up again, but this is they say this is either 125 micrograms, not just milligrams. So it's much smaller than milligrams. And then they use IU as I've forgotten the chemical reason for that, but it's much smaller. Yeah, micrograms. The micrograms is equivalent to the IUs. There's a way they relate them. I'm not sure that's a good word. Let's answer your question. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is super important. Another thing I was doing on the plane is nano silver number 5 here. You can get this off Amazon. We're not selling this, but you can get it off Amazon. Super cheap. This is way back in the 18th century, 19th century. They used to use. They found out that silver had antibiotic properties. So what I would do, and I've used this on patients, and it has significant improvements in whatever it is. So this is, it's almost like liquid. I'm going to steal, this is Nancy's bottle, I'm going to steal some of it. So this, oh, Nancy, this is just, I'm using style to steal some of your liquid. So if you have sinus problems, if you have cough problems, I would take this with me on the plane, and I'll just buy this off Amazon. They also have the spray, the nose sprays. So you can spray it directly into your sinuses, and I'll just go like this, spray. Going on the plane, getting off the plane, wherever, it was always in my bag. Powerful, extremely powerful antibiotic, extremely powerful. Again, this is super cheap. Okay, and lastly, I want to talk about Ace Manning. This is also my bag. These two are always in my bag, and sometimes I take vitamin D because I'm an Arab bread. I'm in Walmart's. I gotta have something that. I mean, if I just suspect, I don't have to have a sore throat. I don't have to have a runny nose. I don't have to have nothing. You don't have to. Just keep on strengthening your immune system. Keep on hammering your immune system. Before I go on, another thing is vitamin D, vitamin A. Vitamin A is super important for the respiratory system. It's not as, the deficiency is not as common, so I don't really talk about that. But because COVID-19 is a respiratory virus, it does make sense to mention that you need vitamin A as part of it. You can get vitamin A, vitamin D, and some other supplements, some other nutrients in cod liver oil. Remember that? Cod liver oil, our grandparents used to talk about that. Liver oil has vitamin A and vitamin D. So you can just take that, but make sure you're taking at least 10,000 international units of vitamin D. So this is the immune. This is what we are using for the research in Nigeria. So the company is a company called Aloe Vera. Jan and Nancy, and Nancy's got it all over her shirt. They've got some of the really best supplements out there. This is not a forum to sell supplements, but what you know about it, please ask them. This is what we're using for our research with sickle cell disease in Nigeria. The company has donated the supplements. They donated the supplements, but we have to raise the money to actually do research. And the point again is that we want to prove that simply strengthening the immune system can go a long way towards helping people with sickle cell disease. And it's not just sickle cell disease, asthma as well. For those of you who have kids or grandkids who are suffering from chronic asthma, it's a problem with the immune system. It's a problem with the immune system. Something as simple as vitamin D. When I say these things, I'm like, which people would fight. I mean, people are dying. I know someone who died recently from an asthmatic attack. He clearly didn't know what I'm talking about. So please take note and you can share, spread the word. Okay, I think we've kind of covered up that. All right, so now I said all that to kind of like use this as a basis for any other thing we're talking about, whether it's problems with the cardiovascular system, whether it's problems with the respiratory system, digestive system, brain problems, whether you're having problems with remembering. Still the basic principles. The human body heals itself. The human body heals itself. The human brain repairs itself. The human heart repairs itself. Right nutrients that provide it with the resources that it requires to accomplish that task. It can get more basic than that. All we've done is we've muddied the waters, confused the issue, we've talked about so many other different things. And tell you what, I mean, maybe it took someone like me to start talking about this because someone in the US would not be able to see these things. Why? Because most people have not been in the environment I've been in Nigeria, where you're dealing with the poorest of the poor and with the most severe conditions. And you know these people don't have access to anything else. You know that you can't go to a hospital. We don't even have insurance the way you all have insurance here. We've got nothing, zero, zip. All they can do is get transportation to get to come 100 miles from their home to our clinic on a Friday. It's what we have that we use to help them. And what we have sometimes is better than going to the best hospitals. And I must say that we both, I live in Baltimore, whereas Johns Hopkins is the #1 hospital in the world, in the US, that's least. It's the #1, especially when it comes to kids with brain disorders and all those things. I've been there, I've gone and spoken there a couple of times. I've had people who have gone from around the world to the treatment centers. They spend a lot of money, but they still don't come by with satisfactory results. And within months, we can help them. Because again, we're not dealing with all this high-tech equipment, we're dealing with the most basic. It's about the human body, it's about the human brain. Once you understand, once you approach things with that perspective, then you can begin to start cooking, as they say, with gas. So last time we talked, what we're going to do, we'll have a quick break now. We talked about so these are the top causes of death worldwide. So what we did last week was that we started going through from the most severe, the leading cause, and kind of like going down. So cardiovascular disease was last week. We also spoke a little bit about cancer. Respiratory, a big problem with seniors, as you know, is pneumonia. Those lungs, just after a while, with all the toxins and the things that you're breathing in the atmosphere, eventually the lungs give way. Some of you are dealing with that maybe right now. We talk about that as well. The nervous system, which is my passion. We deal with Alzheimer's disease back in Nigeria. Again, Alzheimer's disease. Do you know how bad Alzheimer's disease is, by the way? Alzheimer's disease costs this country more than the cardiovascular disease, strokes, and cancers combined. Did you know that? It's the one disease that you can't prevent, can't treat, the best you can do is slow the progression, but there's a train coming at you. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's the official position. And they came out with a drug recently. They came out with a drug. You guys know the politics that happens with Alzheimer's disease, FDA. 11 people went on the board. There's a new drug that is prescribed for Alzheimer's disease. Everybody knows what Alzheimer's disease is, right? Does anybody does not know what Alzheimer's disease is? It's a brain condition in which the brain basically begins to shrink and decay, cost away, and it just takes away the recently, I think it was last year, sometime last year, there was a drug that I think it's Biogen from this book company, come out with a drug for Alzheimer's disease. 11 professionals from the FDA sat on the board and they examined this drug. 10 of them rejected it immediately. One was undecided. Went ahead and passed the drug. It cost, I don't know, $20,000 or something like that. So it's a problem. They have not found a way to fix it. And again, they're looking at it from this really complicated angle. Like, okay, what can we do to stop the brain from shrinking? Again, if you look at the basic principles that trigger the starting of dementia and what causes the brain to shrink, and if you look at how the body should be fixing it or should be preventing it, then you would know what nutrients to address it with. That's what we've done. Some of my patients, I haven't even seen them before. They just call me, my mom is having an issue. I would go through I ask them the questions and all that. And I say, okay, let's try this. It can't hurt. It's not going to hurt. Maybe your wallet will, but it can't hurt much. You ship it to them. And after a few days, oh, she's so much better. Oh, no, sorry, not a few days, a few weeks, a month. She's so much better. She's not wandering off at night. She's not wearing different color clothes or socks. She's not being nasty. She's almost back to normal, right? Basic fundamental principles. Basic fundamental principles. All right, so we're going to break down and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what we get. Okay. Okay.
David, I gotta interrupt you for a minute. This is Paula. I had my phone on the cart at the Civic Center. And him and I went looking for it and thought, I've never dropped it. It fell off my cart. Everybody give Paula a hand. My life is in that phone. And she returned it to the desk and I invited her here today.
Thank you, Paula. What's that? Studio time, yeah, just waiting for Nancy to settle down and then we'll start. Okay, great. Thank you for your patience, folks. Let's get back into it. So we're going to talk about the brain. Most of my patients, let me just admit here, most of my patients are kids, so they have neurodevelopmental problems. With adults and seniors, we're dealing more with neurodegenerative problems. In other words, achieve full maturity. And then things kind of like begin to go wrong and break down a little bit. And then eventually there's loss of not just of function, but loss of the structure of the brain. And this is what an Alzheimer's disease brain looks like. This is actually, the brain actually begins to shrink. Now, obviously, normally, normal healthy adults, their brains also shrink a little bit, but not to the extent that Alzheimer's dementia brain does. And those of you who are taking care of such patients, you know how extremely difficult and distressing it can be. I mean, your parents, or loved one, remember who you are, remember your name, or enjoy life, enjoy the things I used to do together. I can be very, very, very painful. So I'm not trying to minimize it at all. And I'm not saying that we found a perfect solution to it, but I am saying that there are some things that you can do, or you should be doing. Let's put it that way, everybody should be taking care of their brain, right? And there are different levels you can do it. A lot of it has to do with your what is available to you financially to do that, how much can you afford? But there are certainly some things you can do to help strengthen your brain. And again, the word is strengthen. We're trying to strengthen, keep that engine running, right? So the key point, and this is what I always do with all the different topics we talk about. I try to hone in on the key basic principle. So the key point with the brain is that there are, I think, 84 billion neurons. Neurons are the smallest cells in the brain. They are the ones that transmit information. So this is one end of one neuron. This is another end. This area here, this is not meant to be a neuroanatomy class, but just so you understand what we're talking about. This, for you to have a thought, for you to be able to move, for you to have an emotion, for you to even imagine anything, has to be transmission of a signal from like an electrical current from one neuron to the other. And these cables or these wires do not touch at all. It's called a cleft, a synaptic cleft, and they pass chemicals. So it's chemicals that pass like this. So that's if you're not thinking properly, if you're able to remember things like you should, if you're not able to move your limbs, if you're losing balance or losing control, a lot of it's either there's a problem here, or there's a problem here, or there's a problem here. A lot of depression is one of the biggest blockbuster drugs, the most successful drugs of all time, among the top 10 are the antidepressant drugs called SSRIs, the selective serotonin uptake inhibitor drugs. Basically, what that means is that they found out that people who are depressed have low serotonin levels. Serotonin has a lot to do with your feelings and your mood and your sleep. So those who are depressed have very, very low levels of serotonin. So what genius has discovered is that serotonin is one of those chemicals that pass from here to here. They found out that when they release chemicals into this area and into this next nerve, that those chemicals are quickly absorbed into the body. So they found a way to prevent the serotonin from being reabsorbed in the body. So it stays here longer. That's how it treats depression. Okay? Well, the problem is that it also causes other problems. It causes other problems. I mean, everything, neurological conditions, causes headaches, causes weight gain, causes you to have other mood problems affect your sleep. Because when you're dealing with the most complex piece of machinery in the known universe, you can't just, it's hard, really, really hard to have just one drug fix all your problems. It has to take a multidisciplinary approach. So that's just to answer that. So the key is, if we can find out how to strengthen it, remember, I'm going to use that word over and over again, how to strengthen the brain cells, how to make these brain cells more healthy, and how to make whatever is happening here work better. They have a good chance to succeed. I'm just going to mention this. This is called Nutrient Power. This is by, he's not a doctor, he is a PhD in chemical engineering. And he runs what is known as the Walsh Research Institute based in Chicago. A lot of his work has to do with schizophrenia. He's one of the most successful. He's worked with doctors all over the country and all over the world. I flew from Nigeria to attend one of his seminars. week-long seminar, weekend-long seminars. A lot of what he does deals with what I just described. Manipulating what happens in the nerve. So what we discovered, and this is what brings us to how we address this. What we discovered is, and when I say discovered, I mean I read it in a book. Okay, it's not like I came up with something new. What we discovered was that a good way to treat the brain is by dealing with the gut, the digestive system. A lot of things happen in the brain. We know this with autism. We know this with dyslexia, ADHD. The brain and the gut are like 6 and 7. Whatever happens in the brain affects the gut. Whatever happens in the gut affects the brain. And there are a lot of chemicals that are being produced in the gut, either from the food you digest or from the bacteria or the viruses that are in the gut, that find their way into the bloodstream and affect the brain. So you cannot have a healthy gut. I mean, you can't have an unhealthy gut and think your brain is going to be healthy, because constantly you're spewing out chemicals and toxins from the gut to the brain. So one of the things that we recommend, if you can have access to it, and we've seen this happen, you have a loved one with dementia or any kind of brain disorders, one of the best things you can do is find someone, a doctor who knows what they're doing, and give them a colonic. What do you know what a colonic is? A colonic, like having here, colonic is like you're putting in a healthy way, you're putting in fluids, and you're basically flushing out your colon. You're basically removing all the gunk, all the putrefacted, fermented gunk that has been stuck in there. And if you eat any amount of processed foods, you go to a restaurant, you have to put in a lot of chemicals that are stuck in your gut. Cheese, for instance, gets stuck in your gut for years, maybe not years, but a long time. So what it does, it helps to push all that out. I say that because that's probably one of the simplest things. I was on a webinar one day, and we had this brain, this doctor talking about dementia, and one of the contestants, who are attendees, that's what they call them, right? One of the attendees said she, I think it was her father or mother or whatever it is, had severe dementia. Took her in for a colonic, and for 2 weeks straight, the person was absolutely lucid. Back to normal, completely back to normal. Just was playing on the gun. After 2 weeks, he or she reverted. Why? Because it's not enough just to do that. You've got to do other things as well. So what we say, what our approach is, listen, the brain, over 60% of the brain, of those, actually those nerve cells, the first thing you want to do is you want to provide the resources the brain needs to repair itself. The building blocks for nerve cells. In other words, go back to this. What are the building blocks that the body needs to repair this nerve? It's not as easy as building blocks your body needs to repair a bone, have a fractured bone, or your skin, you have a scar, you have cutting your skin. Those are very low quality materials. For the brain is super high quality materials that you would have to search. I mean, you use the building as an analogy. You can break the wall here, it's not going to be a problem. But if you go to the electronic, well, the nerve center of the building is that controls everything, all the electronics of the building, you destroy that. But I guarantee you're going to be spending a lot more money and probably looking for the right technician and electrician or whatever it is to fix that problem, but simply just breaking the cement in the wall somewhere. You see my analogy is what I'm talking about. Okay, the same way is the brain. Now we're being told by doctors that no matter what you do, it's got that hardest road right down to the brain does not make new brain cells. That's what we did. That's what I was doing in medical school about 25 years ago. That's what they're still telling them to this day. That once there's damage, good luck. Maybe your brain will recover, maybe it won't. But otherwise, the brain does not make new brain cells. That's not true. It's not true again. Never has been true. Your brain is making new brain cells every single day. It's just not enough. So sometimes it needs help to get things moving. So yeah, increase the manufacture of those cells like it should. And that's what we're talking about. So the number one thing, what we found out with regards to the structure of the brain was that omega-3s. Everybody say omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids. Okay? And so, and the way we found out about it was that Dr. Barry Sears, who's based in Boston, he's probably the leader in making omega-3s. So he shipped, we got him to donate some of his supplements to us, and we just went to the National Hospital in Nigeria, we took the whole box of them. Went to the hospital, the physiotherapy departments, the physical therapy department, where they're dealing with all these people with kids with brain damage, and we just donated. And we said this, here's a bottle, use it. If it works for you, here's our address and our phone number. If you need more, come get it. And of course, many of them came. All of a sudden, within weeks, their kids were doing things they had never, ever done before. And because omega-3s, what the things that omega-3s do is that they are critical to the structure of the brain. 60%, if you remove all the fluids in the brain, what the solid matter left, 60% is fat. And a good percentage of that fat are the omega-3s, extremely important. So you really can't talk about healing the brain without talking about omega-3s. So what we did is that Barry Sears, to help our foundation, we get a discount from him. So if you, that's one of the things that we are offering here. They're super expensive. A bottle is about $100 for a bottle. So which is a discount.
We eat a lot of meat, pork, chicken, especially chicken because it's more healthy. But we don't eat enough fish, where we get in the skin itself omega-3s, right?
I would not recommend eating a lot of fish, especially the big fatty fish. Why? Why would I not? Bob? Why would I not recommend?
Because you don't eat fish.
You're talking to a fisherman, you're in trouble.
Now. Bob,
Fish is the best thing you can eat.
it is the best thing you can eat if it's not farm raised.
Yeah.
Right.
Farm raised fish, you're not eating fish.
No,
Eating garbage.
Eating garbage, yes.
yeah.
But most times people don't have access to it. Wild Alaskan salmon, for instance, is super expensive to get the right kind. So I don't recommend. So I'm going to qualify that. I would not recommend eating farm-raised fish, which is what most of them have access to.
I've been getting out of grocery stores here in Arizona,
Wow.
high-class health food store. Because I've called people back and told them, you see that fish right there? Look at, this is a wild fish, that's farm-raised fish, and that stuff will kill you. And if you don't believe me, go get on your computer and see what they put in that fish's food. Feed them, get them grow big real fast.
Yeah,
I said, they're killing.
yeah.
And that fancy store over in Scottsdale, over there, they picked me out and said, don't you ever.
They don't want anybody to learn the truth, do they?
And most of that,
Had a chart with all the different colors of salmon, and they want to know what color you want your farm-raised salmon made.
Yeah.
They were actually dying.
Yeah, they were dying.
and if you look at the packages of the, what is that fish called? Tapia?
Tilapia.
Yeah, if you look at it, you'll see that it's raised in China.
We all know how well the Chinese take care of their.
Oh,
their products. So, yeah, so there's a lot of things that are being done. And again, the common thing we know is that many times, especially farm-raised fish, they have a lot of toxins in them. They tend to accumulate mercury toxins. Mercury can do more damage to your brain than anything else. So I can get wild Alaskan salmon. Yes, you have to be sure you're getting that. How will they be sure they're getting the right kind?
Right kind.
Yes, sir.
The Alaskan coho was one real high in omega-3.
Yeah, well, how do they know where to get it?
How would they know where to get it?
Yes, sir.
Most fishmongers know.
Down in the store down here, I wouldn't have any idea, but if you want to get the real stuff, and you can call fish from Trish in Alaska and just send it real stuff.
Okay. So maybe you know where to go if you want to get good fish.
We're required by law.
You're required by law too. Okay. Well, I mean,
It's normally very small.
okay. I know, so it's tough. So I like I said, I wouldn't go out in public and say you need to eat a lot of fish because that throws things out and people can get hurt because you're not specific enough. So I say you need to get omega-3, the best kind of omega-3s, and it's the best kind I know that has worked for us is serious omega-3s. Like I said, if you want to get it through us, we can make sure we have them available, and I think we can give you $100, which is what. So there's some that go for $60 and some that go for $100. That's the bigger the job the liquid you get it for. But $100 one $80, and then the other one you get it for $50. So you get $10 off, $20 off. Better than what you get on the website. Yes, ma'am.
It's not just our fish, it's all our seeds.
Yeah.
You get it, that doesn't have a bunch of junk in it.
Right. Right. So you need grass fed food. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your recommendation for CoQ10?
What I recommend is a formulation that has CoQ10 in addition to the L-arginine and vitamin D that I talked about last week. And we'll probably bring it out again. That I recommend that formulation, not just a single supplement. So I honestly don't know what a specific brand I have not used. I only use, so just to let you know, I only recommend what I've used over and over and over and over again, and I've seen the results. In other words, this person was having severe heart pain or he suffered a heart attack or whatever, and we gave them supplements, and then 2 months later he's new or he's feeling better, whatever. That's what I recommend. So everything I'm going to talk about here, I think we have used either I personally have used on my body or used it for kids or use it for adults. So I can really put a stamp on it and say this works. Okay. So with the brain, so I talked about the structure, we also have to think about function, also want to think about toxins. And when we're done with that, probably go on to this one. So there are supplements that kind of optimize that picture. Remember that picture between 2 neurons? There's supplements that optimize that. One of them is again sold by Aloe Vera. It's called Focus Plus. It improves. Want to talk about your experience? You want to talk about your experience with it?
Well, I know it's a difference, for sure. Because I think it in the morning. And it makes me just so alive. So focused.
Focused. Imagine that. You have take a supplement called Focus. It makes you so focused. Wow, so it makes you come alive. And what is it again?
And just sharper. Think about the day. Just, I don't know, hard to describe, but it just wakes you up.
Wakes you up. I like that. They don't eat coffee anymore, do you? I don't do that. Lucky you. Yeah.
I wouldn't go a day without Focus, but they just came out with sticks now where you can cut the top off and pour it in water and shake it up and drink it. I love that. In fact, you drink it on an empty stomach before breakfast. And somehow Jan, being a best friend, never heard about it. I don't know why.
Yeah, okay.
Nancy or David had to tell her about it.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
I haven't you told her about that. It's one of my favorite products.
So that's like that really, let me just get that picture again. So that's what Focus, it's called Focus Plus. Really helps in the transmission and the movement of information between cells. For Alzheimer's disease, obviously you need more than that because, like I said, it's damage to the structure, sort of picture, damage to the structure. So that helps as well. It's always going to be a multi-dimensional thing, always. For the brain, because it's so complex, not one thing is going to do the thing, but use several different aspects. So there are certain supplements that help to repair the brain. We mentioned omega-3s. There are other supplements that we use with kids and adults that actually help to, they turn on the mechanisms that the nerves use to repair themselves. Basically turn them on. And if they don't, and here's the cool thing, if the nerves can't repair themselves, in other words, if the damage is so severe, what it does is that it triggers the mechanisms to destroy those nerves, kill those nerves, get them out of the way, and stimulate the formation of new cells. That is super cool. I mean, your brain does that normally. If you were 15-year-old, 20-year-old, probably your brain would have been able to do that already. Age, that ability is reduced. So there are supplements that can restore that ability to do that. Did you get what I just said? It either helps to repair the brain cells, or it gets those brain cells out of the way, destroys them, body absorbs it, and then stimulates your body to make new cells. That's what we're doing a lot of that in Nigeria right now with kids. And companies donated the supplements to us. The other thing is you want to, so let's can we to the lights back on, please? Thank you, Nancy. So remember, it's a multi-dimensional approach. This is the brain. So this is the brain. I'm just kind of like drawing different aspects of it. The other thing you want to, and probably I should have mentioned this first time, you want to ensure that there's enough blood flow to the brain, right? That's the obvious thing. Your brain isn't getting enough oxygen, forget it. Your brain cells aren't getting enough glucose or energy, forget it. So this is the heart right here. You've got to give yourself, you've got to get a supplement. And there, of course, there are drugs that's diminished its ability. So there's a supplement, it's called Cardio for Life. Again, we have a discount from the company. It contains all the things, mentioned CoQ10, vitamin D, vitamin C, L-arginine, that helps to open up the blood vessels, heal the blood vessels so the blood can flow. So they improve not just the blood vessels, but also they strengthen the heart. So when the heart is beating, it's pumping more blood to the brain. The better, the rule is this, the better blood flow you have, the easier and more quickly your body will heal. That kind of makes sense, right? I mean, if you have a scar, you have a cut on your face, and you have a cut on your back, which one is more likely to heal first? Of course, blood on the face, lots of blood vessels. Back, not so much. And then your joints, the tendons, your ligaments. I got an injury from squash. I was playing, everybody knows what squash is, and it's like racquetball. I mean, I'm wearing a brace now because I injured myself in squash. I went back into it too quickly after not having exercised for a long time. And it's taken me a long time to heal. And I just realized I told Jen, I was like, I should be taking more of this Cardio for Life to improve blood flow. So one of the rules is this: if you want to improve health, you want to improve healing, you really want to improve blood flow. So you supplement and improve blood flow. That's why we start with vitamin C, vitamin D. Vitamin C and vitamin D both do that very well, but only for maintenance. If you now are having issues, and you've got to step it up, and you need greater firepower to actually improve blood flow. And a lot of you probably your blood flow is not optimal, so this would help as well. So that's the other thing you want to do. And we found that has even helped with strokes and dementia. The other thing I mentioned earlier, so this is the brain, this is the gut, digestive system. This is the gut. I mentioned that a lot of things that happen in the gut affect the brain and vice versa. The kind of bacteria, this is a lot of research is coming out these days on what are known as probiotics. Has everybody heard about probiotics before? So it's the mix of the bugs, the viruses, we all have them. And we're now finding out a lot of mental health issues, whether it's depression, schizophrenia, autism, even Alzheimer's disease, they are finding out that it doesn't start with the brain, it starts with the guts. Apparently, there are certain bugs that they tend to multiply for different reasons, maybe toxins. They're not sure exactly what happens. But these bugs, they multiply and they begin to trigger what are known as those tangles, those proteins that they find in the brain. They call them ACTs, the tau proteins, tangles. Those tangles, it's like protein, kind of like it folds, but it folds in a bad way. And when they begin to fold in a bad way, they interrupt the nerves, get in the way of the normal healthy nerves, and they stop the transmissions that we're talking about. So they found out that the bugs can actually do that. So that's why I so recommend if you can do an enema for whomever you're concerned about. The first thing you would like to do is do an enema. The next thing you want to do is start replacing the bugs. As you grow older, even if you don't have dementia, as you grow older, the diversity and the healthy bugs diminish, and the bad bugs tend to take a bigger position. Happens with everything in life, from cars to engines and everything. Things don't tend to improve. Let's just face that. Things don't generally get better, they get worse. So you just want to take control of that. So probiotics, again, we have a company. We I think they go for about $50. We can get it for $25. And so some people need two bottles, some need 4 bottles. But that's what. So the people that treated with Alzheimer's disease, we gave them, in addition to other things, we gave them like 4 bottles a month. We got some really, really good results. Enzymes, some people, and another thing about the gut, I'm probably going to digest, is some people have constipation. They're not able to digest their food like they should. Maybe it's happened to you, maybe things get stuck. It could just be that you are missing specific enzymes. So there are some companies that specifically focus on enzymes. Some are broad spectrum, but some other people, they have problems with proteins. Some other people have problems with carbohydrates. So they now have specific enzymes that people eat those. Except there are some broad spectrum enzymes, digestive enzymes that help you digest food, so you can go regularly to the bathroom. You should be pooping at least twice a day, at the very least. You know, pooping twice a day is where they should be. And it shouldn't be something you take a long time to do. That's why it's called number 2. It's called a number 2 because you shouldn't spend more than twice as much time as when you're doing a number 1. I just came up with that, so I don't know if it is true. Yes, sir. Yeah.
You're talking about the probiotics and other other ingredients. If you're on medications from your doctor, or whatever it might happen to be, that would be an example. But if you're taking it, do these have any conflicting
whether they interact or they mess with your drugs? Quite frankly, other than the vitamin C that I said, okay, there's a very little risk of having kidney stones if you take too much vitamin C. Like I said, this is by a cardiologist. I can talk about vitamin C. I know a nephrologist who is a kidney specialist who says a lot. Her name is Susan Humphreys. You need to read up about her, especially if you're concerned about vitamin C and kidney stones. But other than those, I don't know of any of these things I'm talking about. Because we've used it on a very large number of people. And as long as you can eat, it's not going to interfere with your food. I mean, it's not going to interfere with your drugs. I always recommend people just take it. And then if you have an issue with it.
I think one of the things he's mentioning is so often that if you're on a blood thinner, like it is for heart medication, you shouldn't have grapefruit.
Okay.
The grapefruit themselves, and you know, a lot of us are seniors who take medication. I know, but that take medications are warned against. this or that, or, so is there interactions with vitamin D stuff? And I think my answer would be, those things are supposed to be in your system. And if you have to, if you're not getting them in your food, which we aren't, then you have to supplement to cover yourself. So very seldom, there's a reason on blood thinners, they tell you not to take vitamin C. I mean, not vitamin C, grapefruit. Grapefruit alone will thin your blood. So I take grapefruit. I don't take blood.
Right.
So,
Thanks for that. Yeah. So I don't know. I honestly, I can't think. So Susan Humphries, she's a nephrologist kidney specialist who was big on vitamin C. And she tries to debunk all the address the problems people with kidney problems have with vitamin C. So especially when you body, you might want to read up on that. And she's everywhere. Yeah, other than that, Bob, I can't think of it. I know with vitamin D, everybody, if you're worried about vitamin D, lifeguards, the ones who stay on the beach and by swimming pool, because they're exposed to the sun all day, they can make as much as 35,000 international units in their bodies. Some cases they've seen us, I think the record so far is 50,000. Lifeguard making vitamin D. Now let me ask you this. If your body can make that much vitamin D, how on earth would someone say 10,000 is too much?
you said something to me, I believe it was this morning, or last night. It was a thought you had, and that really impressed me about the poorest nations, the places, and how God put sunshine all over.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. It's like vitamin D is so important to health that God has made it possible that everybody should have access to it. So if you Google the top 10 poorest countries in the world, they're all countries where there's abundant sunlight. So it doesn't really matter where you are in the world, if you know what you're doing, it should be. I mean, it made it so that something as important as vitamin D is not led to economics. But the thing is that we're not taking advantage of it. Yeah. I go to Nigeria and then go to the park and everybody's like, Nigerians generally like flex. Then we know what I mean by flex. Flexing was flash. We are very, very flash. Very, very out there. We're dressing very colorfully. We want to be noticed, right? So you go to the park or the garden parks and all that, and then you see them in a nice sunny day. You see them wearing the top designer leggings, they're all clad and all that. Well, they should be wearing shorts and pretty much nothing on the top. I mean, the guys should maybe a tank tops because we need vitamin D more than you guys do. And but they don't care. They just want to show everybody what they're wearing and all that. I'm like, what are you doing? I wish I could walk up to them and say, dude, come on. But you can't do that, right? So we blacks, I mean, the average is like about 6. For you to get Jerry, I mean, somebody become Jerry, it's okay, I'm just kidding, Jerry, if you went out in the sun, after 30 minutes, good, and then somebody now, a black guy, dark skinned, goes out in the sun for 30 minutes, he wouldn't have up to 1/6, he would not have made up to 1/6 the amount of vitamin D that you need. You need to stay 6 times as long to make the amount of vitamin D that you lost at that time. Why? That's a very low level. Dark skin melanin blocks out the sun. So it prevents the cells in the skin from making the vitamin D that it needs. Vitamin D is important for the brain. Vitamin D is important for the formation and protection of brain cells. So that's another reason. I mean, you can use vitamin D to answer pretty much any question. What do you need for cardiovascular function? What do you need for the gut? What do you need for the bones? Most of we doctors think only in terms of bones, right? It's important for the immune system. I mean, there's no question you're going to ask, what nutrient do you need for this, whatever they're talking about. Cannot go wrong. Talking about vitamin D. Now, vitamin C, I heard somebody speaking on the radio, I think it was a radio or webinar or whatever it is. It's like vitamin C is so important. It's one of the best things you can put in your body. And she's like, if I were stuck in the desert islands, that would be the one supplement I would have with me. I thought about it, it's like, nah, that's not right. I think it's just vitamin D. And I thought about it again. I was like, you know what? You may be right. Why do you think I said that? Yeah?
You get sun naturally.
There's islands. That's right. So your vitamin D is taken care of if you're in this island. Vitamin C is not. So you got to see it? Okay, good. So again, I'm spending so much time on the brain because there's so much involved in it. But I hope you're seeing what I'm talking about. You want for the structure, you want to maintain the structure of the brain. So you need high dose, high purity omega-3s. You want something that helps with the function, that helps to transmit, that helps in the transmission of brain of signals between the brain cells. That's why something like Focus Plus is helpful. The other things that are available too, but I've been impressed with what Focus Plus has done. You need things that can help to repair. Now, number 3 and number 1 are quite similar. Omega-3s, the structure of the brain. Those are the raw materials, the building blocks. There are other things that trigger the machinery of the brain to repair itself or to kill defective brain cells. Sometimes, I treat a lot of epilepsy and seizures. Sometimes these cells in the brain are what's causing the seizure. The cells are just acting up. They're just hyperactive and they're just causing seizures. They just keep getting easily irritated and then they have a person have a seizure. But those cells need to get those cells out. Get them out of the way and fix and put new cells there. So we started using these supplements to help to do that. And easily enough, almost without fail. In fact, I can't think of any one situation of seizures where we didn't find solutions, where we didn't stop the seizures entirely. Now, those same kids, probably in the US here, they'll go to one neurologist, after another neurologist, after another neurologist, they'll spend a lot of money, thank God they have insurance. They'll probably be on a lot of drugs. Those drugs will dumb them down and take it to a point in which they hardly even function. And still have seizures. We use only one supplement.
I've been reading, I haven't told you that yet, David, I've been reading some of the stuff from the company on the Focus Plus, and it's firing brain neurons, it's doing this, it's doing that, and they're doing wonders with kids with seizures, adults with seizures, a lot of brain problems. And so as it's new, so we don't know as much as David has.
Yeah, they haven't donated it to us yet. That's why we need to get them to donate us a whole bunch of Focus Plus, so we can use them on kids back in Nigeria. So
Yeah, that's right.
yes, ma'am.
I have a question on your digestive system. Does fiber help, like you were saying about going to the bathroom twice a day? What about, does fiber help so that when you eat that you don't go too often? Is it fiber that will stop it so that you don't go too much?
Yes, absolutely. So
So can you take it with each meal? Could you take it more, like say, not just in the morning, but because I find certain foods bother me, so if I take fiber, would that help?
well, let me backtrack. Depends on what is going on. For instance, if certain foods bother you, it could be, I must say it is, it could be that you are lacking enzymes that can help to digest those foods. Now, if you are not, if it's just a problem of watery stool, you've been developing all the time, maybe an irritable bowel, for
So
instance,
it's certain foods.
certain foods.
Certain foods will trigger, other than not everything's normal, but certain foods.
Okay, so there are three things that I would recommend for that. One, obviously, is fiber, because it's super cheap compared to anything else. When I found out about fiber, I gotta tell you, that's one of the best discoveries. Fiber is, so I get a supplement from Whole Foods. It's called 365. It's called Psyllium Husk. I use it every day. I can get Dan to use it. You take it today, Dan?
Tonight, you got me taking it at night.
Make sure you take it. That's one of the best things you can do. So what fiber does, so what fiber does is that fiber, the conventional understanding about fiber is that it's roughage, it helps move things along. So it gives your intestine something to hold on to, which if it's just meat or any kind of foods and you don't have enough fiber, things don't get to move along like they should. You also do the opposite. If things are moving along too fast, it helps to slow things down so that you don't get rid of more than you should. That's just the superficial use of fiber. What is much, much, much more important about fiber is that the fiber, if it's the right kind of fiber, helps to feed the good bugs in your guts. And these, we now know that good bugs affect so many things in your health. They affect your cardiovascular health, they affect inflammation, they affect cardiovascular system, like I said, even affects your hormones. In fact, serotonin, like I mentioned, 95% of the serotonin is made in your gut. 50% of your dopamine, you all know what dopamine is, that's what makes you feel happy. You're down in the dumps and you're constantly have a flat affect. Nothing makes you feel happy. You're not depressed, but at the same time, you're not happy either. That's the flat affect that's seen in Parkinson's disease. It's because your dopamine levels are low. Dopamine is known as the reward neurotransmitter. It gets the highest levels when you've had orgasm, when you've had sex. Dopamine is released. It also happens when you take cocaine and all these other drugs. What most drugs do, those illicit drugs, they spike your dopamine, make you feel high. It's dopamine being released. Okay? 50% of the dopamine in your body is made by these bugs in your guts. And like I said, 95% is made by 95% of serotonin is made in your guts. Saying all that to say that it is extremely important that you have healthy bugs, the bugs that produce the healthy chemicals. Now, there are other bugs that produce really nasty chemicals. A big example is Candida. Candida yeast infections, women may have it, especially with regards to the private parts, vagina. Gynecologists deal with that, yeast infections. We also have yeast infections in the guts. I deal with a lot of kids with autism, they have yeast infections as well. You don't want that. You want healthy bugs that produce wholesome chemicals together.
You know, you go to the store and you look at probiotics and they have different counts on, 10 billion, whatever.
Yeah.
So the way I understand it is a lot of them bugs, when you swallow the pill, a lot of them are destroyed in the stomach.
Yeah, stomach acid, yeah.
And just a small number really get down to where they really need to be. So is there different qualities of the pills that you buy?
Yeah. So yes, so it took me a long time to find the right kinds. Like I said, there's one we recommend, which we have used on kids with autism. These are kids who were not able to speak because of toxins and the bugs. And once we started putting the right probiotics, the right bugs in their guts, and yes, you're right. It's a treacherous journey from the mouth to the colon, which is the end of the gut. That's where the probiotics need to be. But poor quality probiotics, the general conventional probiotics that everybody makes, they get destroyed along the journey because they don't have the quality that it takes to survive that treacherous journey to the colon. The ones we recommend, the ones that I've been using, like I said, for both for kids and adults, is and the company doesn't make it, they don't make it for the problem. We were lucky to get the last batch. So we have a whole batch, it costs about $50 a month. $25, which is heck of a deal.
Nancy, I and Dave, a bunch of my people in Minnesota invested a lot of money and bought everything they had because there wasn't going to be any more. And so David could find a really good quality. So I have some, Nancy has some, and I know David, you have more. Don't you?
Are they in pill form?
Yeah,
They're in capsules.
just a little capsule.
And
And
is
I've
that,
got, I can't say I got a lot of them because I want to make sure he
yeah,
has
is
something.
that a
to
one a
replace
day
it.
type
I
thing?
do have some, Nancy does too.
Okay, what's this? Yes, ma'am. Yes,
You mentioned prebiotics.
I did. I did not mention prebiotics, but yes, prebiotics are very important. Yes, let me explain that. I just talked about prebiotics because fiber is prebiotic. Okay, so a prebiotic is what feeds the probiotic. The prebiotic is what feeds the bugs. And I didn't get my point, so let me get to the point. The reason why fiber is so important is that fiber is a prebiotic that feeds the healthy bugs so that they in turn can produce the chemicals that your body needs, especially that your brain needs. So you're right out the way. It's a chemical called, so you give the bugs fiber and they produce a chemical called butyrate. B-U-T-R-A rate, butyrate. Butyrate, right? So that's, you give them, so this is what they produce once you feed them. It's called butyrate. What it does is that it helps the brain, it helps to stimulate brain function, it helps to stimulate a lot of different things. It also helps to counter the bad chemicals that are being produced. Super important, super important. So you really should be taking fiber. I know you can't get it all in your fruits and vegetables unless you really want to spend the rest of your life the whole day eating just fruits and vegetables because it's just, it's hard. I like to go the easy way, right? So fiber, I think a tablespoon of fiber. Probably need about 3 or 4 tablespoons of that because you need about 35 grams a day of fiber. I get my proposals. Yes,
What
ma'am.
about the enzymes? How much a day do you need for enzymes? Can you take them both? Is it good to have them both?
What was
The
both?
enzymes and the fiber.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got to take them. So when you say how much a day, I don't know how to answer that because I don't know what enzymes you are using. I mean, I can only speak in terms of what I know. The specific enzymes, I always recommend specific brands for anything I do. So but the good thing about enzymes is that again they have a very safe, very wide safety profile. So it's basically what works for you. If what you're using is if it's not working, double it. It's still not working. Maybe even triple it. It's not working after that. Maybe call me. Take one enzymes. Okay, that works. Yes, ma'am.
David, you picked up at Whole Foods, which we don't have here.
Yeah,
We have in Phoenix.
that was Sprouts. Yeah, I'm looking about Sprouts.
And you told me to get them on
Amazon.
Amazon, but I couldn't get them there. When you write down which one it is, and people go to Whole Foods, let their friends know.
Yeah, so you can get right.
California or
I mean, it took me a while to find something like that. So again, when I recommend a specific brand, is because we searched high and low, and then we tested it.
it's made of psyllium husk.
It is psyllium husk, not made of. It is psyllium husk.
It is.
So you're right out there.
Let's see that.
You know, in Canada,
Yeah, Whole Foods in Canada.
And they have a juice on Phoenix, you know, other towns,
Big
but
city.
yeah,
Has one
but evidently, Phoenix actually. Where?
in Phoenix.
Yeah, they have it in Phoenix, they have them in Tucson. They have them in California, but we've been hollering for a Whole Foods place for a long time and writing, the city that they're writing. Issue going on.
It's called Organic Slim Husk. 365 is actually specifically a Whole Foods brand. So if you ask them for this, again, so if you have friends in other cities, bigger cities, can't understand why you don't have Whole Foods here. Another thing I can't understand is why don't you have a Panera Bread too? Why isn't there a Panera Bread? Why is there no Panera Bread here? Please, let me know. Next year. Yeah.
Please, in California, I have Panera Bread. Standing up.
We have to bring some.
Oh.
Like Panera Bread? Oh, what, like Whole Foods? Huh? Really? Needles? Spell it. Oh, needles, as in like kneading bread? Oh, okay. Where is it? Huh? On the left. Oh, on the mall, okay. Needles, okay, got it. I'll check it out. Thank you for that. And Anna? All right. So you need to feed your good bacteria. So I've added prebiotics here. So what else do I need to do? Okay, toxins. So I'm just going to end up with toxins. One of the reasons why sleep is so important. Sleep is so important, not just for you to rest, but they found out that what sleep does is that it helps the brain get rid of toxins that have accumulated during the day. Remember, the brain is the most important, most complex, the most complicated piece of machinery in the known universe. The slightest thing can irritate it. But I'm amazed that so many of us are so, I mean, especially after this COVID-19 pandemic, everybody going crazy, right? I mean, our brains are under siege really badly. Really badly. So don't take it for granted. If there's anything you can do to protect your brain, to strengthen your brain, don't delay. Don't delay, please. Yes, ma'am.
I think carrots on Tuesdays and Fridays help the brain.
On Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah.
That's right.
And crosswords puzzles, I'm amazed coming out here at seniors, how they're constantly doing things with their brain. They're playing music, reading music, working crosswords. Friends back home, they just huddle in a blanket and watch TV because it's too cold to go out and walking, all this kind of stuff. So I think David's noticed that too.
I'm amazed. Yeah, lots of activity, I gotta say. So really good stuff. So yes, Dora.
Before you change subjects, my daughter has MS. The brain is in a lot of time, so it's very expensive.
As a poor Catholic. Yeah, definitely. Different things. Again, it's a little nuanced. I can say take a lot of omega-3s, you have to take a lot of vitamin D. But one thing is salt. You gotta titrate, try this, see how it works. Okay, there's no more. What medication are you taking? Okay, you may need to adjust this and this. So I can give you a blanket statement. Omega-3s, yes, that vitamin D, I would say. I'm not sure it's going to fix the problem. As well as if we work together. Okay. Yes, ma'am. So Any more questions? Yes, so sleep helps you remove those toxins from your brain. Okay, that's why it's so important to get good sleep, cover the, don't sleep with the TV on, don't have the lights on, don't do anything with flickering, don't have your cell phone near you, turn your cell phone off or put it somewhere else. You don't want all those things around you because they will affect the quality of your sleep. The quality of the sleep is affected. But not going to get rid of the toxins like you should, and therefore you want to be setting yourself up for the brain deterioration. You don't want that. Now, having said that, there are also specific toxin, shall we call them toxin removers? They come in bottles like this, a little smaller, and they're some of them have a chalky taste. What they do is that go into your bloodstream, they act like magnets, and they suck in heavy metals, chemical toxins, and then you pee them out in your urine. We discovered this because we're dealing with a lot with children with autism. Children with autism have a lot, many of them have a lot of toxins in their bodies, including heavy metals like mercury and lead and so on and so forth. Now, if you've been working in the factory all your life, you work in the dentist's office where you're inhaling all those chemicals, or you have kids who have inhaled all those chemicals, then you are at risk of having an issue. Those toxins just tend to accumulate in the body. So there are supplements, I wouldn't call them supplements because they don't supplement anything. All they do, their job is just to go into the body, suck it, absorb, attract those chemicals, and keep them out. They work in some cases for autism, that was all they needed. All we need to do was just give that to them. They did much better. Same thing for dementias and other things. Again, for dementias, we need a multi-pronged approach. One thing is simply not. Okay, any questions? See, so you probably also, I'll tell you this, at this point you know a lot more than most neurologists about how to take care of your brain. Know a lot more. Now, neurologists would know a lot about medications and stuff like that, and of course, their brain anatomy and everything, because they're specialists. But when it comes to strengthening your brain, you've been given some of the best tools to do that. Which neurologist would do this as well? Because they could help so many more people. Okay. Should we elaborate? Because I think this is still 4:00, right?
Right.
You take another break or should we end? You just tell me.
Anybody need a break? Yes. Okay. You can take a quick one, and then we'll go on.
We were talking about the Staten Road. I found that when I got off Staten Road and I did Cecilia, 3 times a day, my cholesterol count went down the road with Staten Road.
No, really?
My doctor said, well, he said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it, it's right.
Wow.
Cecilia works good.
So did you guys get that? That's just, you didn't get that, Bob. So Jerry was on cholesterol medication, statins, to bring down his cholesterol. He stopped taking the statins and now started taking psyllium husk. And he said, within how long? Within a month, his cholesterol levels were lower than what they were when he was on statins. And that's a great point, because that's what they do too. So another thing that fiber does, especially if you're diabetic, is fiber slows the absorption of sugar from the gut. So it helps to stabilize your blood sugar levels. It also helps to stabilize the cholesterol. It helps to bring down your cholesterol levels as well. It also does a lot with other things like inflammation and so forth. There you go.
He didn't tell me to shut up, I was talking, so we're already starting.
Oh.
I didn't say shut up.
Oh, no, he said,
I said we're starting.
we can hear you talk.
You know what we're going to do now? Guys, give me a second. I'm going to just set up that. I think it's taking 2 hours away. So what do we start this?
You want me to stop it?
Yeah, let's start this.
and